Hello, everyone. I hope that you are having a fantastic evening or day, either one. I am Kim C. Lee. I'm a children's book author, and I am here this evening with Catie Greene and Gillian Berry, both doctors, and they'll talk a little bit more about that. And we're really going to talk tonight about encouraging dialogue between parents and children, both so they can discover everything about the world and we can just have more fruitful conversations. Before we jump in, I want to remind you all that my new book with my co-author, Dr. Troy Ibadi, is coming out. Can you guys see it? Um, Tuesday, the 25th. So release date is next week. I probably need to start a countdown on my own social pages, but hey, everyone can't be perfect. We also have a formal launch party next Saturday on the 29th at the Sandy Spring Slave Museum and African Art Gallery in Sandy Spring, Maryland. So if you are available, please drop in. The last day for pre-orders is on Friday, which is tomorrow. So hurry up and get your order in. If you are local and you order, you can pick up at the museum or we will mail out your order. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Now let's shift over and get this party started, I guess. Hello, ladies. How are you doing?
Doing well,
Good,
thank you.
You might be on mute. I can't quite hear you. Let's try again. Maybe my volume was just down. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, perfect. Sometimes we always have a technical mishap, but we get it right back on par. So hello again to you both. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
Yes. So in true, let's talk about fashion. What I like to ask you all to do is to introduce yourselves.
Well, my name is Catie Greene. I am a mental health counselor, and I just entered into children's book writing this last year. And my mentor here, I'm excited to bring on because she is going to be doing her own stories as well. And my stories are around mentorship, so I thought it would be really fitting to be able to come on here together.
Well, I'm definitely here because of Catie here. And I'm excited to say that I am a licensed clinical social worker for a very long time, about 35 plus years. And I am just getting ready to release a children's book. And so you'll hear all about that shortly.
That's fantastic. So before we started, you all were talking about how Catie encouraged you, Gillian, to publish.
Absolutely.
Yes, I loved hearing that because I think that sometimes we just need that other person, someone close to us, to encourage us to move forward. You never know who needs to hear the stories that you
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. So before we jump into the details about your book, what does a day in the life of a clinician look like? Give us a little bit more detail of what you guys do.
Well, I was at the dealership earlier today, and one of my clients called me in crisis.
Oh, okay.
So I had to stop what I was doing. I went outside, and I was actually there for that particular person.
Mhm.
So yes, does that happen often? No, thankfully, but it's so varied and so different. Each day is unpredictable.
And what about you, Catie?
Yeah, the thing I love about being a counselor is that I do so many different things. Like in a day, I can teach, I can supervise, I can do consulting, I can do some writing, work with some clients, take a phone call. It is different every day, and I think it's a career for someone that wants things to be different every day. Really.
Yeah, I think that's right. I love different every day. I get bored very easily, so I can definitely relate to that desire to have it change up. But I think that those who work with you all or who have the pleasure to have your help, I would think that they are so grateful for your availability. Like it sounds like at any moment something can pop up and you make yourselves available. So I know that they're very thankful for that.
Of course.
So what inspired you all to get into this line of work?
I think it's I think anybody who comes into this profession, I think the biggest thing is to help and to be of service to someone in crisis. I relish. I describe it as literally getting into somebody's emotions with and helping them process that so that they can actually make sense of the world around them.
Mm-hmm.
So that keeps me going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I say for me, it was a in college and in life, I was trying to find what was most interesting. I was kind of straddling like biology and psychology, like and really this work is exactly a fit for my personality and what I enjoy doing. Sometimes I end a conversation with a client and I'm like, I get to do this for my job, like because I'm just so interested in what's going on for people. And my whole life I've never really shied away from difficult conversations or deeper, darker things that may be going on. I'm really interested in that. It's harder for me to do small talk than it is for something like that.
Yeah, I think that your roles, the hats that you wear, they are crucial in the sense that you are able to connect with people in a way and have them trust you with the most delicate things, or one of the most delicate things, and could be in someone's life, their emotions, their feelings, their thoughts, and they trust you enough to have those conversations and open up to them. So I think that that's really what, when I hear you all talk about the work that you, I think that that's really cool because having someone there to process your thoughts without judgment, is something that a lot of people don't get, right? So you guys definitely have an important role.
For sure.
Um, let's jump into the details about your book. Catie, let's talk to you first. So tell us about your books. You have a series.
Yes, I have a series, and the first of the series that have been here was the Everyone's Included at the Animal Party. The little boy learns about feelings, inclusion, and coping. And I've always been a writer. I tried to get a story on the bookshelf at my local library when I was 5 years old. I tried to sneak it on there, got caught. And so I've always been very interested in writing. In terms of publishing, to be honest, this was entirely inspired by conversations I was having with my little nephew. And I actually got it published specifically just to give it to him as a birthday gift. And then I was like, "Ooh, this is exactly the line of work that I do." And so, interested in this kind of work to create dialogue outside of a therapeutic setting, outside of an educational setting, with questions that are involved in the story for adults to be able to dive deeper into some of the topics with children. And so this story in particular, it starts with a child that is feeling left out and not feeling included, and it really details all of the different ranges of feelings that he's having as he's thinking he's not included. And he gets some help from a mentor. In this case, it's a frog. Sorry, my doorbell just rang. In this case, it's a frog who helps him use his words and helps him communicate and helps him work through his feelings, and he's able to enjoy his time with the other children and then have a great time at the animal party. So all of this stories, I have two others. All of them are socio-emotional skills, so learning about feelings and coping and self-regulation and boundaries, but in the context of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So not separating them as separate topics, but it's life in the context of those things and learning those skills.
Yeah, I like the way you said that, life in the context. The fact that this was inspired by your nephew, I can totally relate to that. My books were originally inspired by my son, and it is truly amazing and a special thing when you are pulling from real life experiences. For me, I don't know about you, but for me, it makes me feel more dedicated to the story that I'm telling. And I am more, not dedicated, but even more invested in it, right? I want to make sure that these pieces align, they accurately represent the scenario that I have experienced with my son or whomever. And you just take more care for it. Um, so the two other books, are those also experiences that you had with your nephew?
Yeah, and inspired by, right? And so the second one, the little girl learns about patience and imagination. Her experience, the context of this story is based in my friend. I have my friend as one of the fathers of a two-father family in this story. And that's not front and center of the story. It's just a part of the story. It's just a part of their life rather than a story that is specifically around a queer, specifically said to be about a queer family, just is a queer family. And the story was inspired. My nephew was feeling impatient in the car, and we already were talking about the animal party, and we were able to say, "Oh my goodness, I see an octopus outside," and the car became a submarine. And it was just a moment where, you know, we could have this moment where we're waiting for something, or we could have a moment where we're joining in and enjoying an experience together. So teaching tools for coping skills in a moment where a child is feeling impatient.
Yeah, and then having the parents, the queer parents in the background normalizes the existence of this scenario versus like shining that light. I love that. It's just every day, you know, every day it's normal. It's just part of our lives, right?
Exactly.
Yes, definitely. I think that's very important and clever the way that you do that. And I know that we're like in Pride Month now, and a lot of those stories are at the forefront, but or I would say a lot of the stories that feature, you know, where those characters at the forefront are being featured. But I believe that there's space for your book too, even though they're not the feature characters, protagonists, because it still shows existence and importance, and that this is a life that someone else is living, and if someone is reading it, they can see their own lives possibly represented in your story.
Yes.
So fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the third one?
Yeah, just very quickly, the third one is around body boundaries. It features the little bear who's learning. He's just really excited about life, and he's learning when he bumps into others and their boundaries and the natural consequences that come there. I wanted to tell a story from the perspective of a child who's just super excited and is fumbling through life and getting all this feedback, and is like, one of the parts that my nephew likes the most is my brain gets too excited and my body just goes pow. And it's just like, it was just language that felt like it could resonate with a little 3 or 4-year-old. And so throughout the story, he also meets the little frog, and the frog is like, yeah, it's totally normal, and let's learn some skills for navigating life differently.
And so you mentioned 3 years old. What is the target age group for your books?
So it ranges, I, as a therapist who I have the reflective questions in there. Honestly, I would say 2 to 12. It works for the stories because you can scaffold the questions. But I've seen between K and 3rd grade it being used by counselors in schools and teachers in schools.
Because they can read alone or be read to, and discussions can still happen. I think that's important to mention because sometimes I get questions about the ages for my book, and sometimes the vocabulary is maybe better set to another age, but children can absorb a lot more than what we tend to understand or believe that they can. With some patience and the right approach, they can wrap their heads around it. Before we move over to Gillian, one more question for you. What do you consider the most important piece of knowledge to share with adults who are reading stories to children?
That's a good question.
Yes, I appreciate this question. I think the most important piece of knowledge, and this is where Gillian and I, our backgrounds align, is that healing can happen everywhere. It can happen in every minor moment. Doesn't need to only happen in a therapy office. It can happen with acknowledging feelings and with just being a guiding force for another as they're navigating their feelings and their experience. That's the biggest thing, is you have the tools in your own home.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I'm just sitting here thinking about all the lessons I've learned and healing I've done with my son. Becoming a parent is like a totally different thing, right? It challenges who you are and how you perceive things. So definitely. Gillian, hey. So in your introduction, you talked about the children's book that you have forthcoming. However, you are indeed a published author already.
I am.
You are. So I want to start there because in preparation, in my mind, it sounds like that was a natural, going from your first published book to your children's book is like a natural progression. So I want to make sure the audience can wrap their heads around where you started in your publishing. So can you tell us about that starting point with?
Well, I never thought I would write a children's book. It was the furthest thing from my mind. In my practice, I focus on adults, predominantly women. And I met a wonderful woman, and she gave me the gift of a song. And so she sang this song, and it resonated with me so much. It was so beautiful. I said to myself, I'm going to put it together in a little book for her and give it to her as a gift. And then I told Catie I was doing that. And she's like, okay. And so what's the age range? Let's do this. And obviously the rest is history, because I put the story down, got an idea of some of the images that I would like. And we found an illustrator, and it's currently with them at the moment. And it is absolutely fascinating. I agree with what you said earlier about it being addictive. It is wonderful to have this idea in my head and then to suddenly see it on the paper. It's like, how did this happen? How did it happen?
It happened through hard work.
Yes, particularly when the illustrator has got it correct. It really captures not just the words on the page or the image, but there's something more than that. It's a feeling. And so that's what I want to jump out at a book.
Yes, definitely. So you talked about the feeling and the process of how you're getting there. So give us some details about your book. What is it about?
I'm so excited to say that it is about living life. One of the things that happens in our society is that we get so caught up with the 9 to 5, and in some cases the 9 to 8 or the 9 to 12, because it's such hard work on a day-by-day basis. So sometimes we forget to live. And what I want to do is to help children understand that they can live by showing them an image of what living means. So you have this elderly African-American woman who has a special secret, and she's able to share that secret with the children, which is that she could fly. But she flies into the universe and all the majesty of the universe, and they're all being interconnected. So she literally, in the words of the song, they are connected to the, let's say, the mountains, the sea, the eagle, the animals. All of these things represent what it means to live. And so you see them flying around the world and realizing that they are so much a part of the world. So there's so much to see, so much to learn, so much to get excited about. Sometimes we may overlook the purpose that we're here for. Makes sense?
So let me ask you this. So you identify all these different elements of what it looks like to live, right, in the world. What about you? What does living look like for you?
Living means making decisions, making choices that serve not just myself, but for others as well. It means being able to model, demonstrate what life should be, which is being not afraid to make decisions, not afraid to make changes in your life. Obviously, coming from that clinical background, I want people to be able to make the most of it. So just a quick example, a parent said to me that their child loves making people laugh. And she told him, no, you can't do this. I need you to concentrate on your schoolwork. Now, for me, I could not say, think about that. Where would we be in this world without Richard Pryor? I mean, for me, the greatest comedian ever.
We definitely laugh all the time.
He wasn't allowed to share his gift, because of a belief that it should look one way, but it meant taking risks. and he wasn't afraid to take risks. And so what I want to share is the opportunity for people to know that they can. And obviously it starts with a
yes.
child realizing that too.
And change is something that the only thing that's consistent is change, right?
Yes.
That's the quote.
Yes.
And so for everyone, that's something that pertains to everyone, no matter how young or old you are. It just permeates life. I think the emphasis on taking risks is something that adults we tend to lose or step away from that because fear creeps in,
Yes,
right?
it does.
There's a carefreeness when you're younger and you're more adventurous and so forth. I love the fact that both of your books, even though they're written as children's books, they still have lessons for adults.
Absolutely.
So I haven't read them, but I know when we were talking about them and stuff, I'm excited to read them. Gillian, when does your book come out? Do you have a date? I don't want to jinx you, so don't feel.
I wish I had a date. It's currently still with the illustrator, but as soon as it's done, it'll be posted with the publisher, who will advertise. But anything that you need, Catie will share the links in order to get the book when it's released.
We're aiming for August-ish, but we do have a perfectionist on our hands, so it will be when Gillian feels really ready to let it out in the world.
Yes, and Gillian, you have another book.
Yes, I do. My first book is directed at African American women. It is called The Righteous Sin. And I went backwards and forwards with the title, but the idea of a sin being righteous piqued my curiosity. The story is about African American woman in the DC area who is a fundamentalist Christian. She really does believe. But to try to navigate some of the challenges that she faces as she grows up. So it moves through her life. We see her in childhood, we see her in her teenage, young adult, and then into adulthood. And what this does for her to commit a sin. And so what we see is her having to navigate the challenge that she faces and offer suggestions on how to deal with it.
I think that this is the book when we were like doing prep, and I apologize. In my ear, I can hear my son downstairs on the phone with his friends. I'm not sure if you can hear it. So I apologize to anyone if they can hear that, and it over broadcast what you were trying to say, Gillian. But when we talked about this, like I said, I think that your adult book was a natural progression, or it kind of led you to the children's book.
Yes.
And it's almost like there's this adult version, and then, or not version, but there's an adult story, adult appropriate story, and then there's this children book.
Yes.
But they both have similar themes.
They certainly do.
Yes, and I think from a marketing perspective, like that's really cool because you could do workshops where you explore both of these topics at different levels, right? And then there's some relatability in the middle. So kudos to you. But you have another book too. You have the food book, right?
Yes, I do. My favorite fruit.
Yes.
And similar to the previous story, it is about teaching. And this is about teaching a young child that they have choices. They can think about what they like and what they don't like. How do we figure out what our favorite fruit is? We do so by trying different types of fruit. And that's okay to know that I like a banana and it's okay for somebody else to like a strawberry. And that is to hopefully demonstrate that it's okay for you to like playing golf. It's okay for you to like playing the piano or the guitar or go bike riding, and you don't. So I want to be able to teach that we can do things that we like to do.
Yes, and embrace differences, right? So we have I have a book that's about embracing differences too, but I have never heard it told in this way, which I think is great because when I first heard you talking about it, I was like, oh gosh, I can use this to persuade my son to just try additional foods.
Yes.
He's like, nothing green. I'm like, yes, everything green, everything green. Let's just try it. Let's just try it. He does try, but I feel like seeing that in the book, he'll be like, oh, that kid tried it. Maybe I should try it too. Not be afraid, take risk, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So as we talk about embracing differences, you both, I'm sorry, not you guys, but you both work in the DEI space. So, and as we know now, with DEI, there's a lot of discussion around ending programs, whether they're direct or indirect, the funding for them and so forth, because there's opposition to what they represent, or they don't, those that be do not want those teachings shared with children or whomever else, or they don't want their tax dollars going there. So I am curious about your perspective on the importance of sustaining these stories that represent diversity and making sure children or even adults to make sure they can see them, they have access to them. What is your perspective on, I guess, that and what is going on? And I know this is a touchy subject, so feel free to respond as you feel comfortable with.
Goodness, yeah. So Jillian and I, in our work, anything that you will read that has our name on it, that we write or that we do with our jobs, is about this. Like, it's exactly on that. Is how do we deepen DEI work so that it can actually be about what's your favorite fruit, in a way that in an interconnected way anyone can connect with that, and yet is still sharing the kernels of what DEI is in a way that touches people at their soul. And so not like entering through through the barrier of all these other preconceived notions that folks have, but entering through our shared human interconnectedness.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And to develop what Catie has said, we call it synergy. Synergy is about the interconnectedness between each and every one of us. We're connected. Now, what does that connection mean? It means that we share common things. Thankfully, I know the wonder of laughing, so I can understand or try to connect with somebody who's not laughing. I need to be able to say, well, okay, this thing that you can actually do. The goal is to be able to recognize that there may be a misunderstanding in relation to what DEI actually represents. So, I can't sugarcoat the fact that many people may misinterpret or misunderstand the goals of DEI, or it may have been portrayed in a way which is negative or overwhelming or too challenging. During the 80s or 90s, we had confrontational DEI. So, it could be misinterpreted by so many things. So for us as clinicians, we want to be able to explore different, let's say, ways of addressing the issue. When we go down to the bare bones, it's about the interconnected, as Catie has said, our humanness and how we connect with each other. So yes, there is a need, but there's also a need to understand what it is that we're trying to get at, which is to have that human relationship with each other.
Yeah, I so appreciate your insight. It's I've been having an interesting conversation with some of my own friends about the label that we put on the DEI label that has been attached. And not that it's bad, but it gives people a reason sometimes to attack it, right? If you remove that label and you still have the same experience, interactions, education, etc., but it just doesn't have that label, I feel like there would be less focus on it, right? If you had a course or a discussion titled synergy, like no one's really coming for synergy or interconnectedness, but because it says DEI, it becomes this
absolutely thing. And that's why we're using a term which has been used for ages. The hopefully the meaning shouldn't change.
Yes,
it is about interconnectedness.
Yes, yes. We lose the title, we still have all the other elements there that are necessary to explore and keep pushing forward. So,
and I also think if you lose the title, it doesn't, if I only know the words, but I don't have the soul behind it, if I'm actually asked to like use my soul instead, if I only have the words, I'm gonna not know what to do. So it actually, like, yeah, I think it makes it if we are human and work on human connection and work on challenging oppressive systems and all of that with how we live, I think that speaks more strongly to any terminology, no matter if it's in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's changed over the last several years, or decades. So it's like learning how to internalize it so that you can show up in any space and take action and be you.
Yes. Okay, so we are coming up on our 30 minutes, maybe a little bit over, but that's okay. So I do want to find out what is next for the both of you. Are you popping up anywhere? Where can we find your books? Well, Gillian, yours will be forthcoming, so I think wherever we can find Catie's, we'll be able to find yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
But what's next? What's going on? If people want to connect with you, how should they reach out? Let us know.
Yeah, so my Instagram account is the easiest. It's Animal Party Kiki. And if you go into my Instagram, my link tree, you'll see all of my links, and I have a new website launching at the end of this month. On this Saturday, I'll be at the Rainbow Festival being put on by Prince George's County's library system. So on Saturday, we're just going to be having some author chats and selling some books and hanging out with children. So that'll be my next show. I'll also be at Montgomery County Pride and Divine Counseling Family Resource Fair next weekend. So
perfect. And so we'll add those links. Well, I may have to go back and add them, but I'll make sure to add those links here. And Gillian, what about you? Anything you want to share?
Except go to the website as often as you can, because it will pop up there soon.
Yes, and your book is also, your first book, your adult book is on Amazon.
It's on Amazon, yes.
Yes, so you all can find that book on Amazon, and I'll make sure that I note that when I do all the official posting. Some of this will post, but I'll go back and edit it. So I want to thank you all for coming this evening. This has been great. I want to echo something that I said to you all before when I first met you. There's like a calmness with the both of you. And I appreciate that, because sometimes, things can be so hectic, and when you can just take that moment to just, calm moment, it's something that we should all really appreciate and value, So thank you for that. Thank you for showing up and bringing that calmness and that ease to this conversation this evening. I do wish the both of you the best of luck. I can't wait to read your books. And if you have any other questions or needs, you can reach out to me. Gillian, when your books come out, you can feel free to come back and talk a little bit more if you would like. For those of you, definitely. For those of you out there on the internet, thank you for joining us. If you have questions, let us know. Make sure you follow these ladies, reach out to them, get some information about the books, and show up in person if you're able to support Authors Love in-person support. You can get a signed book and just show your love all around. So thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful evening, and until next time, thank you. Bye, ladies.